There you go.
Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone, again, to the October 5th West Salem Redevelopment Advisory Board. Hope everyone is doing well. If we could just take a quick roll call. I just see that Samantha jumped on, so we easily have quorum. Irma, are you comfortable doing a quick roll call?
Yes. Okay. Jeff Miller.
Here.
Mark May. Mark May.
Not here.
Ashley Murray. Ashley Murray. Jeremy McKay.
Here.
John Hanna.
Here.
Jason Stacks.
Here.
Samantha Ross.
Here.
Mark Smith.
Here.
Thomas Crozier is absent.
Okay. Thank you, Irma. Well, let's just jump into the agenda real quick. Has anyone had an opportunity to review the agenda? And if so, I would entertain a motion to approve or amend.
I'll move to approve the agenda as is.
Thank you, Jason. Is there a second?
Second.
Samantha, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any discussion? Nope. All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any disapprove? Nope. Moving forward. Thank you. Approval of the minutes. Has anyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? And if so, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Samantha.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other further discussion on the minutes? Nope. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Unanimous. Moving forward. Public comment. I didn't see anyone here for public comment. Tori, did you see anybody, or can we just move forward?
I have not received any additional written comment outside of the meeting topic.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Well, with that, then we can just move right into the conversation for the flashing beacon bike pedestrian crossing on Wallace. I'm sorry, Tori, were you going to chime in and say something?
Yeah, I'll just give a little bit of background and I'll let Anna and Kevin introduce themselves. Just want to welcome them back again. Anna was with us last month to speak to the conclusion of we referred to it as Wallace Road, was a much bigger project than just Wallace Road. So during that period where they were doing repaving and accessibility improvements along that roadway, there was a temporary flashing beacon at 2nd Street. My understanding was the location there was based on, because the permanent flashing beacon was removed at another location. So to accommodate cross traffic, it was put there temporarily. Now that that project has concluded, that temporary crossing's been removed. There have been members of the community, including members of this board and members of council, city council, expressing interest or at least having a discussion about a permanent crossing at that location, given, I'm not sure, Anna could probably speak to the duration. I want to say it was at least a year that it was temporarily at that location. It might have been a little bit shorter. But given that it was there on a trial basis, and there are, I think, members of the community that have expressed interest in having it there permanently, they wanted to bring it back as a conversation to see, is it possible, what steps to go through, who pays for it, installs it, and what could be concerns. I understand there are safety concerns given the vicinity to the bridgehead and a lot of traffic right there, but we'll let them speak to that a little bit. So Anna and Kevin, if you don't mind introducing yourselves and take it from there.
Good morning. Anna Henson. I'm the area manager for ODOT for Yamhill, Polk, and Marion County. And so thank you for having me here again today. I guess I'll let Kevin introduce himself, and then or I can just jump right into some background information on the temporary flashing Beacon and the crossing if you want me to. Completely, I don't know how you want us to address this, or you want to wait for folks to ask questions or what?
Yeah, no, if you can, yeah, go ahead and jump in, and then when it transitions to Kevin, then I'll just let him
Okay, sounds good.
introduce himself.
So I talked to Region Traffic, our traffic engineers, about the temporary crossing installed because of it's Michigan City Lane project is our official name for the ADA ramps along Wallace Road. And that was installed because we were closing the other crossings to update the curb ramps to ADA standards. A couple observations were made while we had that temporary crossing up by our construction staff as well as our region traffic staff, that the temporary crossing was used very sparingly by PEDs. And let's see, what else did they tell me? They also told me that so it was used sometimes, but not a lot. And pedestrians were basically just crossing whenever and wherever they wanted to, and not utilizing that temporary crossing. So, so that being said, it's a little bit challenging when we don't have folks in a temporary situation using that crossing. I think Jason has a question. He had his hand up. You're on mute, Jason.
I'm so sorry to cut in so early into your report, Anna. And I also want to say thank you so much for being here for this early morning meeting. We appreciate you. Can you give us a sense of how that was measured? That feedback that you got? I mean, is that by video and then somebody counting? Is that just from a report of somebody on shift? How is that information gathered and then determined?
Yeah, so no official like data gathering, just completely by observation by the inspectors, the field construction inspectors that are on the grade, and then by our region traffic staff that were making just occasional visits out there. And so no, not like an official like what I'll use as a good term, like a feasibility study, basically to see if it's working, or do we need one or not, that kind of thing. So sorry, not official data gathering.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious. I appreciate that. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. And so if it's okay, I'll just continue. Region traffic is not supportive of a RRFB in this location right now. And without their support, it's hard to push it through. But that being said, they also came back and said that, you know, really a complete study needs to be done. Like I had mentioned, like a feasibility study to determine where the right spot would be if it's let me make sure I have my notes, I'm saying correctly what they had told me. We would have to look at demand and PED use and the cues that happen from the signals in that area. And then obviously one of the things that we've heard before is a sight distance issue. So at 2nd Street, it's tough, right? Because when you're looking back towards the east, right, when you have people coming off of the Marion Street Bridge and coming down, there's a tight corner there. So there's not a good sight distance for including a PED crossing at this point. That's just something that, but they also said sight distance for all lanes, not necessarily just on the north side crossing to the south kind of thing.
And I'll just put something on the screen so people can see. I have a map open.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Bear with me. Everyone see that?
Yes.
So the location we were talking about, I don't recall. I think it was on the north side here. I think where the temporary crossing was. It could have been the south, but I think it was the north.
It was on
So that's
is that 2nd Street to
Yeah,
the-
so Second Street comes through
Oh,
here,
right.
the path goes here. Marion
Yeah,
Street
you'll
Bridge,
have
the
to
bridgehead
forgive me
connection.
because it was a little before my time as area manager, so I'm not sure exactly where this temporary crossing was located, but I think that's accurate. I think Tori's got it right. The other thing is, just like everything right now, ODOT does not have the traffic resources to put on working on a study for this right now. We are just overwhelmed. And we're down a lot of folks. And so right now, Region Traffic is telling me that they don't have the resources to dedicate to a feasibility study to determine if this would be, the right spot to put something like this. We would probably have to consult it out, which we could do, but we would need to find the funding, and then it would probably go under our planning section, or maybe partnering with the city of Salem, something like that. Once it gets funded, our Region Traffic folks do say that they're happy to I guess you would say, join in a scoping effort, and they'd want to weigh in on that. So, okay, that's pretty much all I have for my update.
Kevin, if you don't mind, if you could introduce yourself and just maybe share perspective from your public works.
Good morning. I'm Kevin Hutman. I'm the city traffic engineer. And I agree with what Anna said, that a study would need to be done before it should be considered. I do have a lot of concerns about sight distance for traffic. There's a lot of lane changes in the area. There's traffic coming off the bridge, queuing. We've looked at this site quite a bit over the years as part of the bridgehead study. There's been development proposals on the west side of Wallace in this area that have looked at signalization and different things at Second Street, and all of the studies in the past that have looked at this crossing, whether it's a signal or whatever, have always concluded that it wasn't a good location for whatever reason. And pedestrians are very vulnerable. Bicycle riders are very vulnerable. And, it's easy for mistakes to be happening here because of all of the things that are going on as traffic comes off the bridge. Our opinion is that we really want to make sure it's safe. And very safe, because we don't want somebody to get hit by an accident here and then try to explain why this isn't a good idea. The Salem Transportation System Plan does have some alternative, better connection options. I know we looked at trying to get a better connection between the railroad bridge over to the signal at Edgewater through maybe a path near where the storage facilities are, somewhere in there, bringing something in a little bit more direct to that signal, widening the sidewalks on Wallace into a multi-use path to help direct more bike ped usage towards the existing traffic signal at Edgewater. Those are some options that could be short-term that also might provide a better, safer crossing. The signal is going to be a little bit more safe because traffic is controlled. So until I saw a study like Anna was talking about, I really would recommend against a crossing here.
Jason, you were muted.
Great. So I guess, it's so surprising to me that this has been a conversation for so long and a study hasn't been conducted in co-effort by the city and ODOT. How do we accomplish that? What are the steps? How how can this advisory board help with that study? Does this advisory board think that a study should be done? Also, yeah, I mean, just some thoughts. The other piece of it is, pedestrian crossing there. Does that, with the current observation from ODOT, with just people crossing wherever they want, does this contribute to congestion? And where are we at with how does that fit into the I don't know, the congestion relief task force for that area?
Well, I mean, there was studies done when development was proposed on the west side. I mean, there's been over the years a couple of developments, and they did traffic studies that looked at crossings at Second Street. Not only just ped crossing, but vehicle crossings and access to those sites. So there has been things done that have all pointed to it's not good. And so there has been stuff done.
Yes, additional context there, not necessarily an ODOT feasibility, but from a city and urban renewal perspective study, and I think it was 2016, 2017, we looked at a grade separated crossing for both bike, ped, and vehicular traffic through. So initially it was an undercrossing of Wallace from Second Street. And there's obvious complications there because on the east side, you have the multi-use path leads to Union Street Railroad Bridge. It's a historic structure. So there's pieces that are a bit complicated. But also, if it were a roadway, it would eventually connect to Marine Drive, which the south portion of Marine Drive is being litigated, probably not the best word, but it's being held up because there are members of the community, multifamily residents, people who want to access the park that have concerns about creating basically a front street, if you will, on the west side of West Salem, where you create this road barrier to the park. So, we're doing Second Street right now, mostly to improve it, encourage redevelopment, increase connectivity. But I understand those concerns as far as, it's very expensive. It couldn't be done by urban renewal funding alone. It'd have to be through ODOT, probably even federal government, some kind of, and to only accommodate 2 lanes of traffic. So there's one of those, we'd have to study that further. It's feasible, it's just very expensive. It's about $30 million to go under Wallace. To go over, it wouldn't be as expensive, but it cuts off vital access to adjacent sites. You'd have to start ramping pretty early to get ADA access over Wallace and make the clearance necessary for Wallace Road traffic. So to do that, you'd cut off sites north and south to Goodwill and to the, hopefully over time in the near future, hopefully Rainswood will redevelop. That side would be cut off as well from Second Street. So internally, we have done feasibility studies. From a Second Street perspective, it's feasible. It hasn't involved ODOT, so it hasn't gone that far. It's just to see what could be the estimated costs and if it could work in the footprint that we're working in.
Tori, could you also remind us, this group, I think, voted when you said back in 16 or 17, I don't recall, how much money did we spend for those feasibility studies? Do you recall?
It wasn't, I'd have to go back. I don't want to state it on here. I wouldn't say it was overly expensive. Again, it was mostly transportation planning and structural engineering. So I'd have to go back and bring that back to the group.
Okay, not necessary. It was just one of those things that, since we were on topic, I thought it'd be good to kind of revisit that as well.
Yeah, it took about close to a year, especially once the undercrossing was controversial because we do have, I've referenced the Kaiser Station. There is an undercrossing of the rail there, and it's better. But most people in the community are familiar with Portland Road. crossing of the railroad there, and it is rough. So I think a lot of people are rightly concerned of what could be, the perception of that undercross, that tunnel, if you will. If it it would flood, so we'd have to have pumping systems to clear the water, and homeless and other things. There just have been concerns on top of the costs.
West Salem's in an interesting position. We desperately need some different traffic congestion relief issues, and I've not been quiet about being an advocate of 2nd Street to Marine Drive all the way out to Riverbend. I think that's something that is needed in our community, and I think the majority would agree. But it's easy to say that when that's something that you want, not necessarily what everyone else wants. So I'll stop there.
Can I just comment on?
Yep, Samantha, please.
I not witnessed, but I saw a fire truck, and this happens all the time, but yesterday it stood out because the fire truck was laying on its horn right in front of the branch because they could not get from north to south because it was so congested.
Yeah.
Just a comment.
And certainly, I want to stay on topic here. We were talking about a bike ped crossing there in a second, so I don't want to hijack it or let it get hijacked by my comments. So I'd like to probably go back to Anna and Kevin, but thank you, Samantha. I would echo those same sentiment.
We need some sort of relief. I agree with you, Jeff.
So if we're talking about the pedestrian crossing, and I can definitely understand how someone would say that a lot of people are crossing in that area either way, without regard to the actual crossing. And I mean, I would say I would agree in some regards that there are a lot of people crossing right there without any regards to traffic at all. And I think the reason why we haven't fixed this problem already is because I don't think anyone's been seriously hurt yet. But that's a really big traffic area for pedestrians and bike people. They're coming right off of the Wellspring Park, right off that path. They need to cross the other side. There's no other way to cross. They'd have to walk blocks down the road just to cross the street at the next signal. And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to do that. I would assume, and I don't have any numbers in front of me, I would assume that this project is relatively inexpensive. It's just some striping and a couple signs, one on each side of the road. It needs some power. That's pretty much it. I'm thinking the studies themselves are going to be the most expensive part of this. But it doesn't sound like there's a lot of traction to get this going at this current point. But if we don't do something now, if we don't get this ball rolling now, when do we get this ball rolling? One thing I would also argue, even if we're going to talk about decreased visibility, bridge traffic is already so slow that, I mean, unless you're on like very off times, early in the morning, there's a couple times in the day when you can just cruise right through pretty easily. But more often than not, traffic's going to be going so slow that reduced visibility, I don't think would really be much of a factor. And I guess as an observation, I saw a lot of people use it, but when it comes down to it, there's just a lot of people crossing the street right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's it on my end.
Thank you, Jeremy. I would agree. I saw a lot of people, and I usually get off at Rosemont there. Anna or Kevin, can either of you kind of speak to Jeremy's point about the cost of putting in those flashing lights or the rest of the supporting things that need to be done there if it was to happen?
I'll jump in. I don't know the cost off the top of my head. I can get a rough number if this group would like to hear that, unless Kevin knows. I would probably agree that with Jeremy's comment that the feasibility study is going to be expensive. I don't know if it would outweigh the cost of the actual installation of an RRFB in that location, if that's what's determined is the best and the right choice. But anyway, I just defer to Kevin. Maybe he's got like a cost estimate of some sort for that.
I think the RFBs are running 50 to 75,000, depending on what has to happen with ADA ramps and other things. The one difficulty, I mean, right now people are making decisions on crossing, and generally when you're making a decision and it's not like a intuitive place to cross, people pay attention more to what they're doing and crossing and looking. And when you mark a crosswalk and say this is the best place to cross, studies have shown that a lot of times people will assume that the driver knows that they're there and not pay as much attention. And that's why the city does not mark a crosswalk unless an improvement is done that can actually make it safer through, islands or whatever. So marking a crossing here, I agree with, a better path to a safe crossing is needed. And I think, potentially providing a better connection from the railroad bridge path to Edgewater. Right now, you have to get onto Murlark and go under the bridge and find your way there. And if we could have more of a direct path off of the existing railroad right away that gets people over the signal, that would be, and direct people, that would be a better short-term option. But marking it, as a professional engineer, my job is to look and make it safe. And I don't believe at this time that we can do that. I think because of sight distance and other things. And I don't want to have to explain to somebody's family that got hit, did we do everything we could? And I don't think this is a safe location, but studying it and having other people look at it and doing an actual site analysis and things like that would definitely be the step that would need to be done.
Thank you, Kevin. Jeremy, go ahead.
So just if I can reiterate, just so I heard it correctly, if we did install something like that crossing there, it might actually lower safety to the pedestrians because they would have a false sense of security, which might make them more prone to being hit by a vehicle or paying less attention. We have potential issues to slow down traffic with the lights, potential issues with safety. Is that kind of where we're at so far?
Well, I mean, we mark crossings. We have lots of ped crossings. We're doing ped crossing improvements. And I'm saying that, we would want to do things to make it safer. Generally, on most streets, there's good sight distance and vision to the places that we're putting crossings in to give drivers and pedestrians a chance to see each other. This curve, the curve to the bridge, presents a limitation that I'm concerned about. And I think the ODOT engineers are also concerned about. That would have to be looked at to see if there was a way to make sure, rapid flashing beacons have been proven to be a safer option because it does, warn, help with sight distance to folks, especially blocked by other cars. But is because of the curve, is there the ability to have good vision, even with rapid flashing beacons that to the drivers coming off that bridge? And yeah, most of the day the bridge is fairly slow, but there are lots of times that traffic is coming down at 35 or whatever miles an hour. So we have to consider those times as well.
I wonder if putting the crossing at like Bassett would improve upon that. It would give a little bit more distance for visibility, but still be pretty close to that walking and bike path for ease of use.
Yeah. And then the question is if you're moving them a block to the north, what about bringing them a block to the south to Edgewater and crossing them at the signal, and what could be done there? So I think those things would need to be looked at.
It almost makes sense if you are going to move them closer to the bridge to have them cross at Edgewater. And I'm just spitballing, of course. You could put like a metal rail on the side of the sidewalk right there, specifically right in front of the area where the railroad tracks were going up to the railroad bridge, to stop people from crossing right there.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I bike to Wallery's. I like going eating pizza at Wallery's from here, and getting to the Edgewater Bridge is not intuitive. And so, you know, I think looking at a more direct path between the signal and the pedestrian railroad bridge would be definitely a good thing to do, to look at that option.
Jason, it seems like there you go.
Yeah, Kevin, to speak to your intuitiveness, and I think that this is a place where when we start looking at areas where we can improve direction, so people know what their options are for getting across for pedestrians getting to and from either side of the river, either using Marion or Center Street Bridge walkways or the railroad crossing. The railroad crossing actually puts you out much further if you're trying to get to Edgewater. So it forces the pedestrian to have a longer walk or bike ride if you were trying to get from downtown to Wallery's. What I've often noticed is the signage, like you said, is not very intuitive to where do you go, how do you get there, you know, and it really opens a much bigger look at again, ease of direction for the pedestrian or biker, accessibility. If you drop them off along Edgewater Trail, then we have accessibility issues for somebody in a wheelchair and or potentially even a bike. And then you have pedestrian crossing across Wallace. Again, it's not super intuitive depending on which direction you come across either one of the bridges. So how is the process go to, you know, if we're talking about getting an RFP done between ODOT and the city, who decides that? What advisory board, whether on ODOT or the city of Salem, who makes that decision? How do we get that? We keep coming back to the study, right? You know, there needs to be some kind of study done. This is going to cost $70,000. We need to have all these things kind of looked at it in conjunction with congestion. Tori, there is a congestion report, correct? That's recent for 2nd Street, Wallace, Edgewater. Is that, or Kevin, can you speak to that? I mean, it seems like the pedestrian crossing causes congestion. We want to increase safety. Seems like all of this keeps going back to people can't use Edgewater Trail because it's not accessible at the moment. You know, I keep hearing about we can't do under. Going across seems, you know, directly across Wallace seems to be a challenge. What if we go up and over? Many cities have elevators on either side. It's an up and over. They do it for, you know, light rail systems. They do it for busy freeways. You know, what does that look like? But it all seems to come back to this feasibility study. Who decides that? Kevin, on the city side, how do we determine where RFPs get in place? Is it just by funding, or does that need to be a directive from city council? And I guess, Anna, I don't know enough about the inner workings of ODOT, who makes these decisions to spend that money. And if we can come up with 35,000 on city of Salem side and 35,000 on ODOT side to outsource this RFPs, because ODOT doesn't have the people, right? So we need to outsource this, and the RFP needs to get done. So how do we get it to that stage?
So I'll just speak really quick because you mentioned the congestion, I defer to Kevin for that. There was a congestion relief task force that was council was mostly trying to come up with ways to mitigate traffic during the peak travel times because the community was frustrated at being stuck for long periods of time in traffic. So there were some recommendations that came out of that. So I'm not sure what the status is on that effort. So I'd go to Kevin for that if you want to speak to that. And then the other questions Jason posed.
Kevin, you're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. It is a little more complicated because Wallace Road is a state highway. And so generally crossing of Wallace Road is determined by ODOT. We do work together with ODOT on that. And I think, but the final decision really is theirs because it is their highway that's crossing and they're kind of responsible for what's going on there. The congestion relief, Tori is correct that it mainly looked at, how to deal with congestion that was occurring because of the bridge. And it didn't really get into crossings. It looked at more of how to assign traffic better so that people knew alternative routes or ways to get around. Funding wise, I'd have to work with ODOT to look at options for funding and what funding availability the city has. I don't know that we have any money identified for this at this point. But I'd have to research that further to see what the city could contribute to that, to a study.
Let me just tag on to that. Thank you, Kevin. I agree with Kevin that it's ultimately an ODOT decision, but we would partner with the city for sure. Because when we installed our RFBs, ODOT typically hands over the maintenance of those to the local agency. And so in this case, it would be the city of Salem. So obviously we would have to have, that intergovernmental agreement in place for that. I would say this, that I feel like we have a lot of options for trying to get some funding for a study in the sense, there's a lot of grant programs out right now. I'm wondering about the Great Streets program, if maybe there'd be something there. And I don't know if the city has to apply for that or how that works. So what I'd like to do is talk to Jenna Berman, who's our active transportation liaison, a little bit about this and brainstorm with her and see if she has any ideas. She also works for ODOT's planning section here in Region 2. And maybe she'd be able to, she's first of all, bike ped enthusiast, right? That's why she's working active transportation in the active transportation section. And I think she'd be able to maybe see if there's something we can work with. So let me reach out to her and chat with her a little bit about this. And she may have some background on this already. I'm not sure. I should have spoke with her actually before I came here today, but anyway, so I can do some follow-up.
That would be great, Anna and Tori, if you guys could just connect and come back, that'd be really interesting. Jason, do you have one more thing you want to add real quick?
Yeah, I just think continuing to think outside the box is really great. Signage, railings, maybe things that are lower cost, and when we do bring in, if we can get a feasibility study done, when we start looking at the bigger picture within that, how it all kind of connects from a pedestrian standpoint from west to east. And then once you're on the west side from getting across Wallace, how does that affect congestion? Can we provide some relief as well, increase safety? And Great Streets, Anna, did you say it was the Great Streets grant? or?
Yeah, Great Streets Program. I think
Okay.
the IIJA funding we've received, sorry, I'm using acronyms, Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. It's actually called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law now, BIL. So, you know, Biden changed the acronym on us. Anyway, so that being said, yes, I'm pretty sure it's the Great Streets Program. What I don't know is because we have like 11 grants we're shuffling with right now. I'm not sure what the requirements are for that grant application. And so, and if this would be like, if a feasibility study would fit within the parameters of that. So I just need to touch bases with Jenna on that. She'll be able to help me.
Thank you,
Does
Anna.
I guess one more question. Does a feasibility study need to be done in order to better the directional signage and provide potentially barriers or guards to prevent people from crossing in areas and then redirect them to walkable paths? Maybe we could, Kevin, what's the city's take on that? And then Anna, what, you know, is ODOT responsible for the sidewalk there along the highway, or is that the city's responsibility at that point if we wanted to put a crossing, kind of like a barrier? Obviously, you put a barrier up, somebody's going to go over it or under it, just like any stanchion, right? They're going to say, I'm going to go through that. But, you know, then we can at least say from a city and ODOT response, well, we've done something to increase the city so that if Kevin ever does have to go tell a family why, you know, somebody, there was an accident there, then we can say, look, you know, these things did take place, you know, they were fairly simple at the time. It's what we could afford. It didn't require a huge feasibility study. I don't even know if that's possible.
Well, I think the best is to let Anna take a look at what options they have, because ODOT does have a lot of balls in the air with funding, and she can definitely find what options we have, and I think, you know, a study could help us with some short-term easy fixes, like maybe we widen the sidewalk on Wallace Road to direct people to the signal at Edgewater or up to the signal at Taggart. You know, that signing, it could help us identify where some of the where our shortfalls are. The other thing is, you know, a study could look at where are people going that are crossing here. If they're crossing and then walking towards Edgewater, or crossing and then walking towards Taggart, then maybe having better signing and a better path to get them to stay on the side of the road until they cross at a signal is the way to go. So I think looking at a study, you know, maybe it can be a small study, is a good idea, and I think it can look at some easy fixes and some more costly fixes.
Thank you, Kevin. Anna, thank you as well. We do need to get moving forward. Just we're allotted so much time, and you guys have been gracious enough to give us more time than you allotted this morning. And we have another guest that's going to speak to the sidewalk safety there in the parkway. So Anna, thank you. Kevin,
well,
thank
Anna will
you
be here
well.
too for that.
Oh, good. Anna gets to stay with that one too. Well, Kevin, thank you for your time, and certainly welcome to stay on if you want to listen, but you may have one or two other things that you need to get done this morning. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I will listen, but I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
So with that, Rob is here to talk about some things. And Tori, do you want to kind of go into this next topic?
Yeah, I just provide a little bit of context since we brought it up last meeting and they weren't here. Anna was here, but it was only briefly touched on. So I'm going to share my screen again. So this was a topic that I've heard from members of the community. Jason has raised this too, as far as so this Edgewater Parkway Trail, you can kind of see it here between the green. It's gray on this image, on the map image that I'm showing. I understand that it's this is within ODOT. I think it's all probably an ODOT pathway. I walked this because I heard there were safety concerns as far as accessibility, ADA, those things. There are a few places where the sidewalk gets lifted, one in particular, and I think it's painted and marked. I don't recall the exact location, but that one is already recognized by, I think, ODOT, whoever painted it. I would want to say it's probably lifted like 6 inches. And so I don't know if it's a matter of just replacing that piece or what the conversation leads to. I think it's just a matter of maintenance, ensuring that there's safe ADA access through this whole, I mean, this Edgewater Parkway is a great resource. I know that the Thursday market's held along here, so it's used during that period. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a great benefit to the community, to this part of the neighborhood. So that's just some of the context. It was revisited last month as far as I think Jason raised it as something that could be funded with urban renewal. I just want to clarify there that, you know, where it is parks with Public Works and with ODOT, it's their project. With urban renewal funds, we can't do maintenance. We did put in a multi-use path in Wallace Marine Park where there wasn't anything. So it'd really have to be laying out a whole new, you know, approach through this corridor or somewhere else. And then that would have to be a discussion as an advisory board. You know, if you really wanted to put in a whole new path through this parkway, if it was felt that, you know, maybe there were 1 or 2 areas that was too much and we needed to build a whole new alignment, that would be an urban renewal project. But it would have to be fleshed out through, you know, you guys an advisory board and then to the urban renewal agency as a project. I don't know that it warrants that as far as maintenance, repairing like a section that's not an urban renewal funded project. So that's why we have Public Works. And again, Anna, thank you for being here to speak to this ODOT resource.
Anna, go ahead. Your hand's up.
Thank you. So I talked to our maintenance folks to find out, you know, do we own all that property and who maintains the path? And what I'm hearing from them is, and I haven't confirmed this with our right-of-way section because they're really the folks that know. But it's their understanding, maintenance is understanding that we own up to the east edge of the path. And ODOT does not maintain the path, that the city maintains the path. And well, Tori, I don't know.
Sorry, the east edge. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yes,
Sorry.
I guess it's more south. Is that considered south? So east,
south of the path, is that what you're saying? So not the path itself.
Right.
Okay.
That's what our maintenance folks are telling me, which means they are not maintaining that path, or maybe the property in between, you know, the path and Highway 22 even. I don't know who mows that, you know, who maintains the park area. I think it's the city. From what our maintenance folks are telling me, that's what they believe as well. And so ODOT wouldn't be maintaining or coming in to repair that path.
Rob, please.
Hi, thank you. Rob Romnak. I'm the Parks and Natural Resource Planning Manager for Salem Public Works. Edgewater Parkway is one of Salem's 91 parks. It is considered a connector trail, so it is a park property that includes right-of-way. It is, in reality, it is both a combination of fee-owned property and right-of-way. It's both, and the path crosses both ODOT right-of-way and city property as well as city right-of-way. So it truly is it is both organizations' underlying responsibility. In terms of maintenance, just to give some background on that, the path is, the day-to-day maintenance of the path is the city's responsibility. We mow the grass. However, major reconstruction, we would want to coordinate with ODOT on anything like that. So just, it is a city park. Park operations mows the ground. Park operations is likely the entity that marked that upheaving, and it's likely in the city's inventory of known park path issues. And so then that would mean it's being looked at every year in terms of where it sits in terms of the urgency of the whole park system, in terms of, you know, the criticality of the issue, as well as, you know, related safety issues. And so that's my introduction, and I'm happy to field any questions about, you know, potentially how we could do better in terms of improving the path accessibility.
Just real quickly, I just wanted to highlight there's two paths there. The one that Tori is talking about, and I think that Jason raised last month, runs down the middle of that park. There's another path that abuts basically, is there a part where that changes? In other words, down by those buildings, you're right close to 22 there. And then further on, it seems like that continues along 22 there, but maybe I'm wrong. It's been a while since I've been on that. So with that, Rob, I'm not being clear here. Does the city of Salem maintain the entire thing basically from Edgewater to 22 and the multi-paths on both sides, or in the middle and on the south or east side, however you're looking at that?
Yes, the city parks maintains the entire path. We don't maintain any sidewalk. That would actually be on Edgewater. The path does move around. It doesn't have a very straight alignment, so it does in multiple spots go behind some buildings, and generally in those locations it's entered ODOT right away. As I said, it both goes through city-owned property, and then it weaves into right away, then back into city property several times. There are multiple spurs that connect to you know, ADA ramps to get across and to get to more of the other part of West Salem there, but there is really one central path.
Copy. Thank you, Rob. So Tori, is the question regarding these paths to fix where some of the tree roots have uplifted it? Was that the desired discussion here? You're muted, sorry.
Hate to be that guy. Yeah, it was just raised last meeting and it was off the agenda. So there's just a request to bring it back. I don't know where the direction is. I think that as far as that upheaval, it's been noted. Beyond that, I'm not sure what there is to discuss.
Copy. Thank you. Jason, was your desire to have a quick conversation about fixing that path that's been uprooted or something along those lines? You had some safety concerns or something?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it was on public record that we're all aware of it. The city, the park, ODOT. It is not currently ADA accessible. If there is means within this advisory board to discuss a new trail, fund that potentially, or make small minor adjustments to that, then great. If Tori, it sounds like Tori gave us some options there. We could not, as an advisory board, and I'm just kind of recapping, we couldn't allocate funds to fix the current path, but we could potentially allocate funds to a new path. Also sounds like because it's city ODOT, it would fall. Sounds like city's maintaining that this is ODOT's responsibility. And just again to recap, so ODOT sounds like maintenance is saying that it's the city's responsibility. So it sounds like we don't really have a very clear path from state or city on how this gets resolved for the general public and those who need ADA access, need wheelchair access to that park. Am I correct, everybody, on that recap? Just to make it real, you know, plain and simple for the general public who might be watching in on this.
I think that's a great summary. I'll just a little clarification there. It is both the city and ODOT's responsibility. Although the city maintains it, it is the project is shared between both agencies.
Okay. Again, it's really interesting, this inner West Salem area where there's a lot of connectivity. Almost seems like there might need to be a small advisory board between the city and ODOT to kind of really tackle these joint issues. I'm not sure how to
Jason, can I just
I don't know enough about it. Go ahead.
Jason, when you say that it's not ADA accessible, what specifically are you referring to? Because I'm unaware of it. I've gone on that path a handful of times and that's it.
Yeah, I could try and bring back some video. I know that Councilor Varney, Councilor Stapleton both walked it, but yeah, there are right when you where you know, Wallace and Edgewater meet, if you're trying to get on the Edgewater Trail at that beginning point, when you kind of walk up that way, there's a break in the cement. You could not get a wheelchair over it. You would have to get off a mountain biker would probably have to get off their mountain bike, unless really skilled, to walk their bike over it even. And then there's no additional path on either side of that, like, let's say like a flower bed or something that's flat, because one part of it actually butts up against, I believe, a building, which would be the West Side Station on the back side of that. And then there's a fence. So you couldn't even go around the break in the path. Then as you get closer to on the Edgewater Trail to Edgewater and McNary, there's also another big break in the path, which is, I do believe, painted so that people are aware of that. That particular area, you might potentially be able to, you know, again, I'm not in a wheelchair. If you were a cyclist, you could go onto the grass and around that. If you were in a wheelchair, depending on the amount of water, the moisture in that grassy area, you may or may not be able, with your ability, a person's ability in a wheelchair, to go off onto the grass and then back onto that path, going either direction. And I believe there's one other spot that's lifted. I don't have an exact there. You know,
Okay,
I just want to see
understood.
our parks accessible, and the Edgewater Trail is such a great resource for foot traffic. So
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a really great resource for West Salem. Just trying to make sure that we're getting questions answered with the group, the guests that we have today. Are there any other questions for Anna, Rob, or Kevin before we move forward with the agenda? Doesn't seem that way. So with that, if there's no other questions, I think, Jason, to your point, it's been raised. Kind of the city of Salem and ODOT are aware of it. So thank you. And Anna, Rob, Kevin, thank you all for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
thanks for being here, Anna.
You bet.
And thank you, Rob. We appreciate both of you.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
So with that, we're moving forward with the agenda. So let's just chime in from, if we could just hear from both Jason and Samantha. Samantha, can you give us a quick update on the West Salem Business Association?
Yeah, so good morning, everybody. That was interesting. So I'm trying to set up a morning greeters with Keystone Granite. I spoke with both of the owners yesterday, so more to come on that. That'll be fun. The next board meeting for WSVA is October 12th, at Red Hawk Winery. And then on October 27th, our next general meeting, we're having a candidate forum with Patterson, Evans, Moore, and Farrington. So I'm pretty excited about that. Would love for all of you guys to attend either a morning greeters or the general luncheon that we have once a month, typically the fourth Thursday of each month. And then also we are revamping our website, so updating and making it more user friendly. So we're pretty excited about that too. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Those, just real quickly, those candidate forums are really interesting if you've not participated in one or sat in to listen to one or even watched it online. It is interesting, and I am a big advocate of getting involved in some of these races, and all races, frankly. But thank you, Samantha, and that group for hosting something like that. I don't think that's been done by the West Salem Business Association in the past, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like that's kind of a newer thing. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jeff.
Jason?
Great, thank you. West Salem Neighborhood Association has recently changed its meeting times to the first Wednesday. And I believe that we've moved them even earlier. Gonna have to double check, but I think we're starting now at 6 p.m. Still meeting by Zoom. We are looking into in-person meeting venues as well. The purpose for changing to the first Wednesday of the month was so that the neighborhood association could convene prior to first of the month city council meetings. Give me just 1 second. Got a noise in the background. Other than that, there's still a lot of discussion with land use issues. Congestion on Wallace continues to come up consistently. And how can we, as a neighborhood association, continue to address that with our city councilors and have them direct city staff to address that issue with ODOT. We know that it's just going to continue to get worse. It's not going to get better. And so how do we deal with that as a neighborhood association? Those are some of the big things that are always on the board. I know that our November meeting, I think we're also having a candidate forum. I'm not 100% sure who will be there, but I know that we've invited several folks or put the invitation out there. I believe one of them is for Polk County Commissioner who is running, or Polk County water resource, something interesting, something that has to do with water, which everybody should be concerned about your water. Anyhow, that's all I've got there. I think I'm always open to questions. And we also recently approved to have our website updated. We're trying to move away from Facebook. Research continues to show that Facebook shuts down groups and pages for no reason whatsoever, and you cannot reclaim them. You cannot get to a person. And so housing groups on Facebook is not really very safe if you want to keep your information. So.
Great, thank you, Jason. Again, I'll just reiterate, when we talk about congestion, that Marine Drive plan that was back in '96 or whatever it was, the city plan, that seems like a pretty good option. It seems like there's a lot of resistance towards that for some reason, but I will let that go because I'm not necessarily participating in a lot of those conversations. So with that, we have just a few extra minutes here. Anything for the good of the order or potential topics for next meetings or upcoming meetings? Samantha?
I would like to revisit the welcome to West Salem sign, where we're at on that.
Okay.
Tori, you smiled. That would be awesome. I feel like that was there and then all of a sudden it just went away. So
Sam, if we had a crossing that went up and over, with elevators, it could, on the one side, it could just be huge. Welcome to West Salem. And then it would be up in the area so no one would ever hit it. Like the one that they built in Kaiser that just kept getting hit over and over and over. Welcome to Kaiser. Sorry, but you know,
That'd be great.
Thank you, Samantha. I can't remember where we left off on that, Tori, but we can chat about it. And
We were looking at
revisit
a
it.
few different spots, and I was talking to ODOT about them, so I'm happy to revisit it. Initially, the ideal spot that was raised, and it's been raised multiple times when Councillor Clem, when he was on city council, there's that, I don't know, they call it a pork chop. It's like that concrete island as you come off the bridge, the Marion Street Bridge at Edgewater. That's an ideal location, but again, to Kevin's point, having a crossing near there, and to Jeremy's point, you're right. When it is congested, it's hard to get through that intersection. So then there's ample time to not hit that sign or see "Welcome to Salem." But a lot of time when I'm going there, most people are trying to race to beat that light. So I mean, if you look at that paving, it has tire tread all through that thing. I think ODOT mentioned that it was when they put signs up to direct people there, it was one of the most hit signs in the state. So I don't know. That's where they moved away from that location to a few others that I've had conversations with them about. So I'm happy to revisit it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Tori.
And really quickly too, since we have a little bit of time, as an update, so our Salem is adopted. There are no appeals. So that went on for 3 years. Basically, Eunice came to update the group multiple times. So I just wanted to inform you that had been gone through and it's adopted now. And then also there's some of you involved in the Urban Land Institute. Well, all of you were involved as far as recommendation for funding to look at, like, it was a visionary kind of high level conceptualization of, bringing people in from outside groups to see West Salem and give some kind of high level ideas. So we should get that report here. I reached out to them yesterday because it's supposed to come the first week of October. They're saying that they're pretty much wrapped up. Now we're looking at October 15th. So as soon as we get that final report, we're going to be sharing an information report to the agency board, city council, and I'm happy to bring it back to this group too. So that could be, we could look at that either in November or December as a topic. And also, since we're getting inclement weather, the group has expressed interest in the micro housing and then housed. So we could bring Gretchen or others back from the community to see what sites are being identified and how that's being handled this next season. So just a few other topics to keep in mind.
Great. Thank you, Tori. Well, with that, if there's not any other comments, I'll tell you, I love the gift of time. It is one of my favorite things, and it's a rare thing to receive from people. So we are going to be given approximately 15 minutes, 20 minutes here. So thank you all. Hope you all have a great day. And if there's anything that you would like to chime in on or potential topics, feel free to shoot Tori an email, and then we'll try and get something going on the next topic. So on the next meeting, excuse me. So with that, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.